So I'm here with Garry Polmateer. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, yeah.
So you might not, I don't know if you remember, but I've actually met you in person. It was like, it must have been 10 years ago, I think, before you started Red Argyle. And just a little anecdote. So I was at a Perio and one of the execs said, we're looking for people, of course, like everyone is in the Salesforce world. And they're like, hey, see if Garry wants to come aboard. And I knew you a little bit just talking to you. And I felt that you had a vision, right? And for what you want to do, what you wanted to be. And as much as I would have loved to have been your colleague, I felt like, he knows what he's doing. So, Garry, you're well known in this world of Salesforce. Can you introduce yourself a little bit? And one thing I wanted to ask is, I know you have an art background, and that's very uh, clear when you follow you on social media. How did you get from art to consulting?
Oh man, there's a lot in that question, John. So
Yes.
I'll uh, I'll start there and then back into Salesforce, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I was always I always been kind of creative, and when I was in high school, I was really into art. I took 3 art classes a day, and even gave up my lunch so I could spend more time in the studio.
Wow.
When I went to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do and ended up changing majors 5 times. So during that journey, I went from full full engineering and science to
Right.
social studies to fine arts, and ended up really enjoying the art side. So I got my bachelor's in fine art. Um, During my senior year, I got a job filing at a place
Yeah.
that does computer service and repair.
Mhm.
And then I started getting into the computers. Then I started getting into networks. Then I started getting into databases, and kind of jumped from that job to a database admin job. Did that for a few years. Got kind of bored. I
Right.
thought consulting sounds like a really awesome next step, and I got into consulting. And first day on the job, they were like, "We just got back from Dreamforce. We want to put you on the Salesforce team." And I'm like, "What the what the heck is Salesforce? Give me 24
Yeah.
hours to think it over." And I read everything, and then went in the next morning. And I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, Salesforce team, let's go." And
Yeah.
that's kind of how it started.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, I think when people think about careers and what they study, and I think the line people think, oh, he was an art major and now he's doing computer stuff. So how did that happen? But I think the line is a lot thinner than we think, right? So there's probably a lot you learn from art that work in consulting. Would you say that's true?
Oh, I can't say that loudly enough, John. And thank you for. It's almost like we prepared these questions, except they're not. Just for
They're
the
not
record.
prepared.
So,
Yeah.
um, no, this is something I love talking about. I think that the parallels are extremely strong between creative work and tech, which
Mm.
seems very counterintuitive. But he- here's a couple things I learned in art. I learned how to work super hard. I learned how to solve really hard abstract problems, and I learned how to take a whole lot of criticism along the way. Um, a lot of reading and writing, everything. So when you go to technology, what do we do in technology? We solve really hard problems. We have to think creatively. We have to take a lot of criticism. We have to do a lot of reading and writing. I mean, all those skills are foundational skills, work beautifully in either industry. So it wasn't really that hard of a jump. It was just instead of a paintbrush, I was, writing workflow rules. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I came from more of a literary background. So it's just like when people ask me, like, oh, what language did you take in college? I would say Latin, right? Because I didn't take, well, I also am old enough that there wasn't a lot of computer stuff, right, in college. It was like, it was an engineering thing, completely. Um, that's really interesting. And there are a lot of lessons to learn. So right now, your title is CEO of Red Argyle, and I have to say, I don't think there's that many CEOs in our industry that know how to write a user story and know how to configure Salesforce. So it seems like you're really uh, hands-on. Um, could you tell me about Red Argyle? About
Sure.
first of all, I want to understand the culture. What is the company? nuts and bolts, and then what's the culture like?
Yeah, so Tom Petros, my business partner, he started Red Argyle in late 2010, and then mid 2011 invited me to jump on the rocket ship with him.
Yeah.
And when he started the business, he had a vision for, I want to do tech consulting, but I want to do it a little different, and a little bit of a, again, taking that creative flair, but also building a company that's really good for us, but also great for our employees, which consequently is great for our customers. So we really rooted our culture in those in that thought process. How do we, just be really awesome employers to work
Mhm.
for, and having a happy team. Our customers are happy to work with us because everyone's not struggling
Right.
with work. So we do a lot within that. We created a bunch of mantras that we call Mojo, which we employ regularly to like help guide decision making process. Um, we have a lot of I'll just say side stuff going on in our Slack. That's tons of fun. And other thing that we do, I think, is a little bit different. Is our utilization goal is 75%. So we're just
Mm.
not trying to grind people. And 75, if we're all doing 75%, it's perfect for us and leaves everyone a lot of room for personal development, training, fun, whatever it takes
Yeah.
to kind of round out the experience.
Yeah. Yeah. For anyone who's been in consulting and prospective consultants, I mean, that's almost a good question to ask for people who are looking for a job, right? Like, what is your utilization target? I don't know how often that comes up, but
Hmm.
90% is not unheard of, right? And
Hmm.
then bonuses start at 95, and then you have start people working at 110%. It doesn't look like you're looking for that. So, um, who would you say are your typical customers, and what industries do you guys work in?
Yeah, so we're focused on two verticals right now. Health and life sciences, or HLS as they're called in the ecosystem, and communications, media, and tech. Um, and it's funny, John, I just ran a whole bunch of numbers. We are currently doing about 70% of our work is Experience Cloud, which was quite a surprise for me. And we're realizing that I think this creative work that we're rooted in has really enabled us to do some really amazing portal experiences for our customers. So,
Wow.
like the favorite kind of project for me right now is, big brand, enterprise scale partner community that we're kind of helping them from the onboarding through
Right.
the legal contracting and then the whole service side of it of helping a partner be more successful with Salesforce technology, kind of running the
Yeah.
whole show. And then we brand it and put a bunch of UX work into it. So, sorry, Salesforce, but most of our communities don't look like you. Most of our communities look like an extension of our customer's website, and most people don't even know they're using Salesforce.
Yeah.
So that's where we're really doing a lot in those
Yeah.
spaces and those types of projects.
That's really impressive. 70% Experience Cloud. It used to be what they call it. They just changed the name, right? It was used to be Salesforce Communities, right?
Yeah,
Now it's you could tell you're plugged in because I always say communities. Um, that's really cool. So, is it generally larger companies or smaller companies that you work with, or does it not matter?
I think we've got the Pareto principle going on. 80% of our work is large,
Mm,
large multi-year engagements, and then 80% of our logos are smaller, kind of filling in the gap. But so we do both. We're trying to focus on the larger enterprise projects, but
yeah,
we have some amazing customers who we've worked with over the years that either they're just so fun to work with, or they just have such unique teams or projects that we're keeping along with them.
right. And how many people are working at Red Argyle now?
Well, a funny story, we were 50 at the end of 21, and now
Yeah.
we're 62, give or take.
Okay.
We just did a massive round of developer hires because again, we're doing so much of this custom experience cloud stuff. We needed a lot of development horsepower, some UX folks and some technical writers all joined at the same time. So we had a huge onboard in January,
Right.
which is uh, it's been really fun to just have this huge infusion of new talent into our team.
Right. So, you know, the demand for developers is really huge right now. So, how do you find people and how do you maintain culture?
Mhm. So our biggest pipeline for talent is actually through a partnership with a local college in upstate New
Mm,
York, and we started recruiting out of there aggressively about 5 years ago, and we realized that 60 so they have what's called a co-op program where they have to the students have to do 1 to 2 full semesters out in the field working in the industry that they want to work for.
yeah,
So we get these super talented developers, and now we're hiring business analysts and designers from the same program. Uh, and then they come work for us for 6 months, and we create a curriculum. We get them basically fully billable within 2 months, and then our joke is that we offshore, but we offshore off the shore of Canandaigua Lake, New York, because that's where all the action's happening. We just built a new headquarters to house everyone. So that program has been wildly successful. I think 40% or so we hire on full time right after they're done and they graduate from
right.
school and they come back. And now we're on our like sixth generation. So the culture has been interesting because it kind of propagates the folks who were here in an earlier class, then kind of help train and develop the next class and carry it through. So it's just been really successful in that way.
That is super cool. So are your employees coming into an office or are they remote? And how did COVID affect everything?
Oh man, COVID was no 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 small thing.
Yeah,
The good news is when we started Red Argyle, I lived in Albany and Tom lived in Rochester, and we just started hiring a couple random folks around upstate New York, and so we always had complete remote ability baked into our tech stack and our culture because I've never lived in the same city as Tom.
yeah,
Um, so when COVID hit, we typically would have 60-70% of the people in the office before COVID, and we've always been
yeah,
really flexible. So for that to drop to 0%, the tech was fine. We didn't really have any technology issues.
yeah.
It was more of like, how do we keep the sense of togetherness? How do we keep the teams, structured and moving okay? So we did a lot. We did a lot of intentional outreach. We really fine tuned our Slack because we're long term Slack users. We love it. And we actually did a restructure.
Hmm.
We 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 had this monolithic dev team and this monolithic consultant. So we ended up making these smaller pods, these
Okay,
small cadres of folks. So it's like 5 or 6 people per team, and then really wanted to create kind of these smaller groups so it was easy for people to get projects done in a small cohesive way, even though we're all
right,
remote. And now we're trending back towards the offices are open, and but our policy eminent flexibility. You
right.
want to stay at home, stay at home. Want to come to work and collaborate with your team, come to the office. We're just trying to
Yeah,
make it easy for everyone.
right, right, right. Are all your employees local or do you have remote?
Probably 70% upstate New York, 30% remote. I mean, we're
Okay,
in 10 states now, so
okay,
we again being comfortable with remote technology, we've expanded our search for talent
right.
anywhere, basically anywhere in the U.S. Although a little less in Pacific time, just from an overlap perspective. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's been interesting.
That's really exciting. So, the ecosystem for sales for Salesforce consultants has changed a lot since from the 10 years that you've been working. And one thing I talk about is how the ecosystems evolved, right? Like when I started, there was, of course, it was Aperio and well, Model Metrics before that, and uh, Cloud Sherpas was huge, and Blue Wolf. A lot of those names and Seven Summits,
Hmm.
have been incorporated into larger. And we recently heard Traction on Demand, which was a big player,
Hmm.
get swallowed up by the mothership.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think of the Traction on Demand acquisition, and how do you see the Salesforce ecosystem for consulting changing over the next few years?
I mean, um, I feel the incredible growth of the ecosystem like allows this to happen.
Yeah,
And we just saw the new guidance for this fiscal year from Salesforce and next year, and I mean it's still up, up, up.
right.
So there's room. There's a lot of room for everyone to carve out an area to be successful in. The Traction on Demand acquisition was, I think the timing surprised me, but
Mhm.
the news didn't. And the
Yeah,
pattern over the last couple of years has been the mega companies are buying the mega companies, and it's making more room for mid market partners like us
right.
to kind of move upstream another step. And for us, as we continue to mature and grow our own resources and talent, like I think it's I'm not going to complain about having a little bit more room to grow.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of the exciting thing, that there is rebirth and opportunity for firms like Red Argyle to grow. I think at the pace that you want, right? Because I think a lot of things when firms take this aggressive growth, the biggest thing that suffers is the culture, right? And it
Hmm.
seems like that's super important to you.
Well, we had 2019, we doubled in that particular year, and we got to the end of 2019, and we were like dog tired, frayed. Every relationship inside the company was pretty stressful.
Yeah.
Um, and I think in 2020, one thing that I would call like a positive effect of COVID was like we really had to circle our wagons from a culture perspective and from a like how
Mm,
are we doing this thing perspective, and
yeah.
take a more measured and thoughtful approach to growth. Um,
Yeah.
and we still continue to grow, but we're setting our growth targets more for like 25, 30%, not 100. And even
Right.
at a scale like that, it still puts us on a really healthy trajectory. And that's kind of where we're setting our sights, 25, 30%, and just do it in a way that's comfortable and thoughtful, and lets us kind of, like you said, grow at our own pace, not at a pace that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Right. That's really cool. So, I mean, the technology itself, which seems like I hate the term, get your hands dirty, because we're typing in computers, we're not working in a coal mine, right? But Salesforce itself is changing a lot. We saw Lightning, kind of take over for Classic, and now Slack is there, and with Tableau. What excites you about Salesforce right now as a technology?
Hmm. Oh man, where to begin? I, uh, I mean, obviously, I'm excited about what the Experience Cloud is letting us do for our
Yeah,
clients right now. But I look at, I mean, Salesforce has so much hubris that they are and succeeding at just taking over everything that they're looking to do. And I think the acquisition of Slack is like we still haven't even started to see the real benefits of Slack, and we're really looking at that as we're continuing to internally we run our whole show on Slack, but we're gearing up to be able to offer services around Slack in the future. So that's really got me excited. I'm a huge fan of my Trailhead, and
yeah,
I know again it's just got rebranded to Sales Enablement, but I think that sale that thought process of you take something like Slack, you take something like Sales Enablement, you take something like Experience Cloud. These are all platforms that are making it way easier for people to do business, whether
yeah,
you're an employee or a partner or customer service agent trying to learn how to use the tool. So all this stuff I think is going to just make Salesforce stickier and more critical and important and easier to use than it
yeah,
ever has been before. So that's my quick
yeah.
take. There's lots of nerdy stuff too, but that's a whole show with that.
There's a lot of nerdy stuff, that's for sure. It depends on how much you want to nerd out, right? So it's almost, as a firm, picking and choosing what to focus on must be part of the hard part, right? Because there's always the shiny new toy, right? And I guess some of it is driven by your clients and what they're asking for.
Yeah, a couple big shifts that we've made. I mean, Experience Cloud focus has kind of been an accident, but now we're like, wow, maybe let's make this more intentional.
Yeah,
One big shift that we made, because a lot of the customers we work with are kind of in regulated industries, is security and compliance work, where
yeah,
it doesn't get a lot of press, right? But like Salesforce Shield, platform encryption, logging, and event monitoring, and all that stuff, like they are really huge benefits to add to your Salesforce portfolio, uh, because it lets you check all those compliance boxes where, there's been
yeah,
so many cyber attacks and breaches over the years that, that's something also we developed a little niche for. And now we can do penetration tests on communities as an example. So that's been really exciting just to kind of take some of that less shiny tech and
yeah,
realize it's really nice stuff to have. Um, but yeah, it is always like we sit around in our leadership team and we're like, all right, what's new with Salesforce that we should be keeping an eye on, because there's always so much going on.
yeah.
Um, But it's also easy to forget, like, as an example, the new permissions that are available, like deny
Right.
rules, like to me,
Yeah.
how many half beeped architectures we had to do in the past to like create the same effect as the deny rules that you can have now. It's like the opposite of a sharing rule. Like, I mean,
Right.
just stuff like that, these little tweaks that make architecture on the platform so much nicer. And, don't
Right.
even get me started on, uh, like, am I an expert on flow? No, but I see where flow was a year ago
Mm.
versus today, or 5 years ago versus today. And I mean, that system lets people do wizardry on the platform without necessarily having to take on a full development role.
Right. Yeah, I was excited to see Flow, and I took the trailhead, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be awesome." And then I was like, "Ooh, this is much harder than I thought." It's like I'm glad there's not
Yeah.
people out there figuring it out for us,
I
right?
mean, I'm gonna be, I'll tell you a little secret. I I'll do the business analysis work, and when you say I get my hands dirty, like, I mean, I've been doing tech for 20 years now, so I've seen a few things, and so
Mm.
I'm still helping actively on a bunch of projects with business analysis, strategy consulting, like having flow as a potential solution for some of the stuff I'm doing analysis on is like it's so comforting because I
Yeah,
know that we're going to be able to do this and do it pretty easily and fast and affordably for people.
absolutely. So one last work-related question,
Sure, sure.
and it's a two-parter, so maybe two questions. So, what is the hardest part about being a CEO, and what advice do you have to other CEOs? And I talk to a lot of people who are CEOs, maybe of smaller to mid-sized companies like yours. What advice do you have for them?
For me, the hardest part um, has been you know realizing that uh, if something good happens, uh, like it's not because of me, it's because of the work that the team did. And if
Mm.
something bad happens, it is because of me, and I need to, take it on and go figure
Yeah,
out, what's the root cause and work on it. So, I mean, I feel like just the challenge of going from, my past, a contributing team member to the leader of a team to, leader at a company of 50 people. Um, it's a big mountain to climb.
yeah,
Personally, it's, a lot of stress. And, I was on another podcast and I talked about like, there was a time where, like I was in therapy because I was like trying to figure this out and I was really stressed out and having a hard time. And,
yeah,
like I think, uh, the struggle is real for, no matter what your job is, but, leadership roles are always hard. Cause you've got to take the heat when things go poorly
yeah,
because, it's like all responsibility rolls up and, that's fine. I accept it. Advice, I think is, I mean, there's a lot of tactical stuff, but to me, the best advice would be find a support network of other mentors, business owners, whatever you can find to help realize we're not alone.
mm,
So I'm in a small group of three other Salesforce practice owners. We're all non-competitive, around the same size, and like we get together once a month and talk shop and just help each other out, basically, like deal with all the ups and downs of running a business. And I'm also a member of EO, which is an entrepreneurs organization, and I can't talk highly enough of the
yeah,
support I've gotten from EO. So yeah, find support. I think that's the best thing because it can be a very lonely road.
yeah. That's really good advice, and I guess I've heard that from other people in your position. Uh, I'm not a CEO, but it is in this industry. It is a very relationship driven thing, and it's not. I'm not surprised about therapy, right? It's just like relationships are hard, right? And if you grow up in a certain family with certain norms, and navigating relationships is always difficult, right? And we don't realize how stressed. I always think, my grandparents, they're not alive, but if they saw what I did for work, they wouldn't even recognize it as work,
Hmm.
right? It's just typing into a computer and talking, right? Like it's nonsense. It's not, fixing washing machines or working in a coal mine. Um, like I said before, I keep bringing up coal mines. I think I was a coal miner in a previous life. But the stress, it's not obvious, but it's constant. right? And it's just it takes your whole character, so it's not surprising. I usually ask people what they do in their spare time, but for you, it's quite obvious if you follow you on social media. You do woodwork, you do a lot of stuff, right? But so what keeps you sane outside of work?
Well, first of all, I mean, the real force that keeps me sane is my awesome wife, Jessica, who's
There you go.
incredibly smart, talented, and you know, when I'm traveling and doing all the crazy stuff I do here at the office, it's like such a comfort to know that she's got things under control at home. Um, but for my own hobbies, I mean, I think you know, there's a couple things uh, that keep me going, and one of them, which again, maybe I'll diverge into a side story. So early last year, in middle of 2020, middle of the pandemic, I lost all the hearing in my left ear. Like it just shut off like a switch for no discernible medical reason whatsoever. And
Wow.
did a bunch of therapy and got about half of it back. But that was like a small low point along the road that I've been on. And I always played drums, and I had to quit because
Oh,
of my ear stuff. So I picked up a ukulele, and I thought this will be quieter and like
yeah.
give me something to focus on. And so I started playing ukulele. And I can't say that I'm good, which, you know,
Uh-huh.
I have some Twitter videos of me trying. And but that's become like my new favorite thing to do is play ukulele. It's also something you can do for like 15 minutes a day,
Right.
and just have so much fun with it. So I love that. And then yeah, making sawdust is like not only is it a hobby, but it's also a lifestyle because I heat my
Right.
house with wood. So,
Okay.
about 3/4 of the woodwork I do is cutting up trees and turning them into firewood, and I
Right.
do all my own processing. And now I do it for my parents and give tons
That's
of wood away
fantastic.
and all that good stuff. And then, yeah, I'm really getting into, furniture making and
Yeah.
different fun joinery and,
Right.
I don't know, anything with wood, I'm down for.
Perfect. And yeah, the ukulele is a lot more ohana to it, right? So maybe you'll open Dreamforce someday.
Yeah, that's my hope, you know, to play on the big stage. I think I got a little more practice to do before I get to that
All
point.
right. And one controversial question: who's your all-time favorite drummer?
All-time favorite drummer?
Yeah.
Um, my all-time favorite drummer, I would have to say Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater. He
Okay.
he Dream Theater wasn't the most popular band, but from a pure like drummer technical perspective, I mean, he was
Okay.
off the charts. And I gotta say a close second is the Rev. He was from Avenged Sevenfold, the original drummer from. I mean, he was like the best metal drummer I think I've ever
Okay.
heard. But yeah, between Mike and the Rev, I'd say those are my two favorites.
Okay.
You don't
I
look
don't have
very
it.
happy about my choice.
Well, I'm trying to figure. I mean, people usually say like Neil Peart, or mine is Keith Moon, right? Or you know Bonham from Led Zeppelin. But y- obviously, you're more of a technician, so you know a lot more details. So I know it's just a fan. So it's always, you
Yeah,
know,
I always liked Neil Peart, but Mike Portnoy, I felt like I think he was like a student of Neil's, and then
okay.
he took the timing aspects in particular to like a whole nother level, which I was always into like weird time signatures and stuff.
Weird time signatures. Well, Gary, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. It was great catching up with you. I'm sorry it's been probably 10 years, but we do stay in touch through social media, which I guess is better than nothing, right?
Yeah, and hopefully we'll all be at Dreamforce again soon. And I do fondly remember hanging out with you quite many moons
Yes,
ago.
many moons ago.
Always yeah, always happy to catch up. So thanks for the invite to the show.
We were just kids
I
with
know.
kids with dreams.
Well, yeah, it's been a wild ride, but the Salesforce economy got us here, I guess. So here we are.
No, I really love to hear what you guys are doing at Red Argyle too. It sounds like a fantastic company. So
Oh, thanks, man.
double thumbs up for you, Gary.
All right, thanks.
Take care.
All
Bye
right,
bye.
bye. Oh, hard stop.